Hello there, and welcome to Nowhere to Hide. I'm Brian Hyde. You've probably heard a little bit about illegal immigration lately. Well, there's a lot of concern, especially in Los Angeles, and especially with federal enforcement of immigration laws. But do you realize that we had no less than four missed opportunities in the Idaho legislature this last week that, could have made things a little bit easier for the state of Idaho? I'll explain what I mean in just a few moments.
All reporters are biased, the Idaho Press Club are biased, all media, newspaper, radio.
To be completely blunt here, Brian, and there are plans to expand
indoctrination.
That's right.
Well, Idahoans are also concerned.
Horror shot. That line would be moving a little bit farther west.
I'm like crying.
Nobody wants to see
Dark money is influencing policy in our state.
Well, that's not how this works.
Once again, welcome to Nowhere to Hide. You know, watching the clashes going on in Los Angeles between federal immigration enforcement as well as activists and I'm going to use the term useful idiots from the left being brought out to engage in lawless, violent behavior. It's very clear that this is an issue that has been weaponized. And I mean by the Biden administration, which threw open the borders and let in tens of millions of people who maybe shouldn't have been here. And I think it's safe to surmise that the reason most of those people were brought in was because at some point a vote or a ballot could be attached to their name, and therefore there'd be enough numbers, to keep the Democrats in power no matter what. And it's just crazy to look at how much things have shifted since President Trump took office, where there were, hundreds of thousands of encounters that ICE or Immigration Customs Enforcement would have, with people crossing the border illegally. Each month they'd have 100,000 or 200,000. Now it's down to like less than 2,000 in a month. Pretty amazing turnaround. And it just came from the will to do something about it. But let's talk about doing something at the state level. Obviously, in California, there are questions about did local officials actually sit on their hands when there were federal agents under attack and people trying to set their cars on fire and smash out their windows with bricks or whatever. And it appears that, there was definitely some resistance on the state and even the local level. So what if a state were to take some definitive stands in their state law about illegal immigration? Would it surprise you to know that we had just that possibility just in the last legislative session? I'm going to share with you no less than four bills that show how Idaho could have put a higher priority on dealing with illegal immigration, but for reasons yet unknown, these bills either weren't ever voted on or they were watered down. And I'll tell you more about that in a few moments. So here's a tweet from the Idaho Freedom Foundation. If the Los Angeles riots have shown us anything, it's that the Idaho legislature must prioritize illegal immigration next session. And I know the narrative is, but these are people just coming here for a good life and just, trying to get away from someplace bad. If that's the case, though, why do you have people like, this guy rolling around, encouraging the destruction of stuff and waving a foreign flag? I mean, if they deserve to be here, is there a reason that they don't seem to have much pride in this country, but plenty of pride in whatever they just left? Okay, just asking for a friend. Anyway, let's talk about some of the bills that could have been in the last legislative session. This is just a quick overview, but first we have House Bill 11. Which would have criminalized illegal entry and related offenses at the state level, allowing for enforcement even when the federal government refuses to act or fails to act. Okay, that's, again, dealing with this at the lowest possible level. Here's some of the particulars of this bill. House Bill 11 would create Chapter 90, Title 18, Idaho Code to criminalize an illegal alien entering the state of Idaho, saying a person who is an alien commits an offense if the person enters or attempts to enter this state directly from a foreign nation at any location other than a lawful port of entry. Pretty straightforward. I mean, you come in through the front door, you're probably going to be okay. Try to sneak in through the back door, probably not so much. A first offense would be a misdemeanor. A second or subsequent offense would be a felony. Now, Chapter 90, Title 18, Idaho Code, also would contain a section that further criminalizes an illegal alien refusing to comply with a judicial order to return to the foreign nation from which the person entered or attempted to enter. That crime would be a felony. So clarifying and expanding the role of the state judiciary in this process is actually necessary because federal courts often lack the will to expel even convicted criminal aliens. In fact, they'll tell the president, you turn around and you bring them back. Oh, they're concerned for at the federal level for due process. It's very touching, but I wonder where that was when it came to due process for those accused of doing something wrong on January 6th. Nonetheless, another bill, House Bill 94. This would require the Secretary of State to verify the citizenship of all registered voters in the state of Idaho. So in 2024, Idaho voters voted overwhelmingly to amend the Idaho Constitution to say no person who is not a citizen of the United States shall be a qualified elector in any election held within the state of Idaho. So this House Bill 94 would have created Section 34-402A in Idaho Code, clarifying that it is unlawful for any individual who's not a citizen of the United States to vote in any and all public elections on any and all matters. This is largely a restatement of the existing crime of attempting to vote when not qualified, which is characterized as a misdemeanor under Section 18-2307 Idaho Code. So this is not something just made up out of whole cloth. How can we punish people who speak or look different than us? Now, the bill would require the Secretary of State to verify the citizenship status of all persons on the statewide voter registration list by comparing the current voter registrations with the citizenship data available from the Idaho Transportation Department. And it would also help America Vote Verification Information System that's maintained by the Social Security Administration, and would require further that the Secretary of State shall make use of other available databases containing citizenship status in order to ensure that only United States citizens are registered to vote in Idaho. Bottom line, ensuring that non-citizens do not and cannot vote in Idaho elections is an important component of election integrity. And the crazy thing about this is those who are opposed to this kind of law would say, well, it's already illegal to vote. And yet, election after election, we find people who are in the country illegally who somehow ended up with voter registration or with a ballot and ended up casting votes. That's not supposed to happen. This would just make doubly sure at the state level. Next, we have House Bill 335, Aliens Concealing and Harboring. This would make it illegal for an organization to facilitate the unlawful presence of an illegal alien in Idaho and impose misdemeanor and or felony penalties. The bill allows for exceptions for law enforcement, emergency responders, and first responders acting in their official capacity. Now, the note attached to this reminds us alien is broadly defined as any person not a citizen or national of the United States, which creates problems regarding foreign nationals that are in the United States legally. So this is why you have to be careful with the language here. House Bill 335 would create Chapter 90, Title 18, Idaho Code, which would prohibit an organization from concealing, harboring, or shielding from detection an illegal alien in Idaho, or conspiring to do so if the organization knows or recklessly disregards the fact that such aliens coming to, entering, or residing in the United States is or will be in violation of federal law, including being an inadmissible alien. Now, how much imagination does it take to understand, that what are these organizations we're talking about? Could it be farms, agricultural businesses? Very much could be. Interesting, isn't it? Because these are the same lobbying influences that watered down or prevented bills like this from being voted on in the last legislative session. Now, the bill would also make it unlawful for an organization to knowingly encourage, promote, advertise, coerce, or induce an alien to come and reside in this state. I would presume that extends to offering them a job when they're not legally allowed to work in the U.S. It would be illegal for an organization to knowingly transport, attempt to transport, or conspire to transport in this state an alien in furtherance of the unlawful presence of the alien in the United States. Finally, this bill would make it unlawful for an organization to provide, promote, or advertise shelter, financial support, or legal assistance to an alien in this state if it knows and disregards an alien's illegal status. Finally, House Bill 382 would require every public education institution within the state of Idaho to record and report the immigration status and nationality of its students. Now, again, I know there are people who will cry foul, well, these people need this education, but who's paying for it? If it's the taxpayers, then that should go first to people who are actually citizens. Under Plyler v. Doe, 1982, states are unjustly required by law to provide free public K-12 education to the children of illegal immigrants. And this mandate imposes a significant financial burden on Idaho's education system, with expenditures on the English language learners or ELL program totaling $4.8 million in fiscal year 24 and 25. So the Migration Policy Institute estimates that as of 2021, there were over 18,000 ELL students in Idaho and more than 57,000 total children in immigrant families. Now, while it's uncertain what percentage of these students are children of illegal immigrants, it is likely that they account for a significant portion of that cost. And House Bill 382 would approve accountability in Idaho's public education system by exposing the financial strain imposed on it by illegal immigration. So these are 4 bills that could have been voted on, could have passed if those in the legislature or lobbying groups hadn't seen to it that they were quietly, kept out of the limelight and away from votes and were either never voted on or just watered down to the point that they were actually meaningless. There were some nice cutouts, for those in agriculture-related industries. So what do? Well, clearly, we have another shot at this in the 2026 legislative session. I think the first and foremost thing would be become as well informed as possible on this issue. If there are places where the states can step up and take some of that burden from the federal government, maybe they need to do so. Obviously, this is a timely issue, not just in Idaho, but all over the country. So we'll be keeping an eye on it for you, and I'm sure we'll have more to talk about in this regard coming up. One final note, we're going to be talking in our next episode about property tax assessments. A lot of people starting to get those right now. And Rachel Hazelip has this incredible article, which you can find at idahofreedom.org, talking about property taxes versus bonds and levies. And if you don't know how your taxing district goes about, valuing your property so as to properly assess taxes, we'll have some information on that and talk a little bit about things you should know regarding bonds, levies, and property tax. And maybe even we'll discuss a little bit about what's the possibility of getting rid of the property tax. It's an idea that comes around every so often. Maybe it's an idea whose time has come. I'm Brian Hyde, and this is Nowhere to Hide.
All reporters are biased. The Idaho Press Club are biased. All media, newspaper, radio.
To be completely blunt here, Brian, and there are plans to expand
indoctrination.
That's right.
Idahoans are also concerned.
Horror shot. That line would be moving a little bit farther west.
I'm crying.